To the Mark Goldbridge live stream channel. If you're new, make sure you subscribe, bottom right hand corner, and we're going to be on here for the next few nights at 8 o'clock as we try this new thing that obviously if you watch the United Stand, you saw the 7 o'clock video there as we look to do a little bit more short term content on there, and then longer live streams on here where we can Q&A and stuff like that. So make sure you subscribe to this channel as well. We're going to be talking about Alex Sandro. This, as you can see from the thumbnail, first deal done. United have probably got, the way transfers work, Manchester United have probably got 2 or 3 deals done already. It's just about fine-tuning them. They'll have been working on them for the last few months. I've mentioned this a lot to you before. Now, the Alex Sandro thing was something, we tweeted it out this morning, that if what we were told yesterday is true about Alex Sandro, he probably will be Manchester United's first signing. Now, if you remember back in January, a week before the Alexis Sanchez thing, well, it was Robbie from Arsenal Fan TV, I told you, I'll tell you who that, he told us a week before that was going to happen, and it did happen. Now, obviously, I don't disclose sources until it's been sorted, and if it comes true on this one, if they want to be told, I'll tell you who it is. But the Alex Sandro deal is one that Manchester United are very, very interested in doing, and Alex Sandro is very interested in coming to Manchester United because Manchester United need a left back, and Alex Sandro has been looking to leave Juventus. Now, there's a big if on this, and it's really about Luke Shaw. If you remember a couple of weeks ago, I was saying that Luke Shaw is a player at Manchester United, obviously, who I quite like, but he's a left back, and we've already got Ashley Young, who's going to be here next year. If we keep Luke Shaw, we won't sign a left back because we don't need one. We've got Luke Shaw and Ashley Young. Manchester United, Mourinho, I think Mourinho's made his mind up on some players, and I think the board will back Mourinho. But the board also, if you listen to what's going on and what's in the reports and everything like that, it appears that the board are a little bit reluctant to let people like Shaw and Martial and certainly if Pogba was to go because they're young, expensive, potentially great players of the future, if not now. But there's also an issue with Luke Shaw and Martial that they've got a year or around about a year left on their contract, and if they've had enough of their development, their perceived development being stunted, or Mourinho's perceive Mourinho has been publicly getting on at them and they don't get on at other players, and they decide they want to go, then United will sell anyway because the resale value of Martial is going to be not very much next season with a year left on his contract, and I think Luke Shaw's only got a year left on his contract anyway because he signed an extra year. So I think if Luke Shaw goes, the Alex Sandro deal should be done very, very soon, and this is the information that we've been given, that Alex Sandro not going to the World Cup. Juventus fans actually want to get rid of him. I mean, I've always been a big fan of his. I've said it so many times. If I watched the Champions League final a year ago, I thought he was absolutely brilliant, and I do watch a lot of Italian football, but this season he hasn't been that great. It's like his head's elsewhere. But head elsewhere, Juventus fans may be wanting to get rid of him. Fine, that's fine by me. He's only just turned 27. He's fast. He can go forward. He's around 6 foot. He's good defensively. He's strong. I think he's got every attribute to come to the Premier League and do very well. Doesn't mean he will do. Doesn't mean he will do at all. There's no guarantee with that at all. I'm not going to say any signing's definitely going to be a success for Manchester United, but he's certainly the best left-back option in my mind that United can go and do. And I think there is certainly a desire from Mourinho to get his targets in. It's common sense. He wants to get his targets in early, and obviously 1 or 2 before the World Cup would certainly help. We did Lindelof early June last year, and then Matic and Lukaku took too long. We were on tour, weren't we, for Matic, and we can't have that situation again. And I think there's a couple of players we may have to wait till after the World Cup for, if we're in for Milankovitch Savage, if we're in for Fred, looking like that could be after the World Cup. But there are certain players that we can get done before the World Cup, and I think Sandro certainly fits in that. So watch that space with that, because I think Alex Sandro is certainly a player that United can get done very quickly, and that's what we're sort of hearing around that. Although I wouldn't say it's definitely done that Luke Shaw will go. I wouldn't say it's definitely done, but I think Luke Shaw and Martial, what people need to bear in mind here is, and obviously Mourinho's been a contributor to that, it'd be wrong of me to say not, but I think there is certainly an appetite from the club to retain Martial at the club. But I don't know, Martial might look at it and go, I'm not going to the World Cup, you've signed Sanchez and benched me, I want to go somewhere else where I'm going to be appreciated and not feel that every time I have a sort of bad half, the manager's vaguely talking about me in press conferences and match reactions. So yeah, we'll see about that. But I mean, I think Luke Shaw's such a weird one. we'll watch their careers with very, very big interest if they were to move off, because I think that they're both 22 years of age as well, and both got lots of potential. It's really interesting what could happen with those. But we won't sign Sandro if we don't sell Shaw. So it's what do you want? Hopefully Shaw will stay, says Susan McKerney. Bring back Vlu Van Hal, says King Eric. And Mark Morris, says Massa 2021. And Adam, Stavros, go support Spurs then. Okay, it's all going off there with Cookie Dough. Mourinho wants to improve every area apart from goalkeeper, apparently, says Jake Holters. Well, that's going to cost a lot of money. And Mini Diver's right. Sandro, William, Talisca, Fred. We've got no Brazilians. We could end up with a five-a-side football team of Brazilians. But if I could only have two Brazilians, I would take Fred and Sandro, and I would leave William, and I would leave Talisca, but we'll see. Remember, I'm doing this on the Goldbridge channel, so make sure you subscribe, because we're going to trial this out this week with me doing the 8 o'clock stream here and a shorter form early 7 o'clock video on the United Stand, which has already gone up. So make sure you subscribe if you're new. Plenty of people watching, which is great. It's great to see the audience moving over here, and do spread the word for that, because what I want to do with this 8 o'clock stream now is be a little bit, on the United Stand, you've got to be, professional and whiz through it, whereas on this I really do want to interact with the live comments a lot more than we have done. Brazilian Neymar, how much for Mark, says Mervyn Atchison. Well, look, as I said, that Neymar to Manchester United could happen because he went to PSG. Why would he go to PSG from Barcelona other than money? Manchester United, if they've got the money, they can bring Neymar to Manchester United. He's clearly not very happy in PSG. PSG have said there's no chance of him leaving this summer, so maybe that is a factor. But would Manchester United want Neymar? I mean, there's this whole thing about whether Galactico signings really are the way to go for United at the moment. We've tried that and it's not necessarily worked. And I certainly do agree with that thing we were talking about yesterday, whereby Manchester United fans, some United fans, are actually not that excited about going signing 2 or 3 stars again, because we've been doing that for a number of years and it's not getting us any further forward. We need to actually build a team of 11 players, which we're a long way off doing. So Neymar to Manchester United, of course it can happen. I've sort of heard, maybe we'll swap Pogba and Martial for Neymar. I mean, I throw that to you. Would you swap Pogba and Martial for Neymar? Because I certainly wouldn't. And I have thought about Pogba quite a lot. And I think Pogba will get his own video at some point where it's just a show ourselves. And maybe we could do that, or maybe tomorrow night, see what the transfer stuff is. Because it is it's not easy to say, yeah, Pogba should stay or Pogba should go. I think it'd be amazing if we were to let him go. But on the other hand, the inconsistency of Pogba in games like West Brom, West Ham, these are the games that a player, I've said it before, Salah at Liverpool, De Bruyne at Man City, they're doing it week in, week out against everybody. Pogba has done it a handful of times in 50 games and been very inconsistent against teams that realistically he should be absolutely running those games. And it's year 2 for Pogba. And I mean, Mourinho gets a lot of stick, but Mourinho has shown genuine progress on 2 seasons. We didn't win any trophies, that's very disappointing, but we've gone from 6th to 2nd. In his first year, we won the Europa League and the Carabao Cup. So there is definite progress with Mourinho. It might be frustrating for some, but there's definite progress. With Pogba, I mean, is there progress? Was last season better than this season? He started off well and then he tailed off badly. Was last season better than this year? Is what we're going to get in year 3 with Pogba. And for Mourinho to have such an important player in Paul Pogba, not providing that Salah or De Bruyne what they do for their clubs, he can look at Matic, he can look at Herrera, he can look at Valencia, and they can be a little bit inconsistent, and he can go, well, they're important team members, but if they have a few bad games a season, I can sort of deal with that because they're not my star player. But your star player, they've got to do it week in, week out. That's why they play the big bucks. So Pogba for Neymar, Martial and Pogba for Neymar, I mean, that's probably what PSG would want. For Manchester United, I don't know. I mean, it's very brave to do it. Hopefully, our new fitness coach leads us to pressing more next season. Our players just look so lethargic, says Reynard Pierre. I agree with that, and I tell you what, that's one thing I'm really, really positive about is that I said it after the Sevilla game, and I know I've said this already, that we were just Mourinho was surrounding himself with coaches that he's been with for a very long time, and I feel that that's quite problematic to do that. And what we've got is a situation now where Rui Farria's leaving, probably by his own accord, but you cannot argue with what he's bringing in. This fitness coach from Italy, we need to work on our fitness. We know that. We're too lazy. Bottom of the league in January for distance covered. That's terrible. Like the worst team in the Premier League for distance covered. And then you got Michael Carrick, who, for anyone who was watching the watch along last night where we did Champions League final, or anyone who's watched Carrick, you know that Michael Carrick is a player that is very cultured. He can read a game and he can find spaces. So as a coach, he'll be a cultured coach. Kieran McKenna, coming from the under-18s, two things really. One, he's an attacking coach, and two, he knows the youth setup like the back of his hand. Which there's so many. If this works out well, there's so many boxes ticked by Mourinho there, and he must be applauded for that because people say he's very set in the ways, and you can't have it on. You can't be totally negative on one side and then not look at the positives. And one of the things I did say about Jose was that he needed to look at the coaching side of things, and there's three coaches that really do tick a lot of the boxes we need. Fitness, definitely need to improve that. Carrick, who understands the defensive the game, how to build a game, how to run a game, and then Kieran McKenna, he's quite inexperienced in relation to the higher levels of football, but he knows youth, very important to Manchester United. He knows our youth setup like the back of his hand, and he's an attacking coach. I mean, the only surprise is that Nicky Butt wasn't used, but I think that's a real positive. And as I said, I just feel now that I want to sort of park the negativity of last season. Yes, it was very disappointing, but we've got another season with Jose to build towards. And the bottom line is that the last season wasn't as good as we wanted it to be, but we did finish second in the league. We did show progress, and he's done that year on year. And what's the progress next year? The only progress there can be next year is winning the league or winning the Champions League. Anything else, and we'll say we did that last year. Second again, or we might win an FA Cup. Is second and an FA Cup progress on this year? Well, maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. We'll see. Mark, how come you never answer my text? Says Tony Barkley. I've never had a text from you. Probably won't. And when will we win the Champions League? Says Antonio Melchi. Let me just go to my crystal ball and I'll tell you. And I just want to talk about Milankovitch Savage very, very quickly as well, because Milankovitch Savage obviously plays for Serbia. Matic plays for Serbia. Now, this has already been mentioned before. They're both part of the World Cup squad, and that is a positive in that sense because Matic will be spending a lot of time around Milankovitch Savage, and I don't think that deal can be done before the World Cup as much as I would like it to be. I think Lazio are going to drag out the Milankovitch Savage deal because it's in their interest. He's had a fantastic season. They're not in the Champions League next year, so the player's probably going to want to go. But Lazio don't need to do a deal quickly. He's had a great season. They can probably get 80 million for him now. If he goes and has a great World Cup, they can probably add another 20, 30 million on there. So I don't see Milankovitch Savage being a deal done before the World Cup, unfortunately. And that is very disappointing from a United point of view. But the positive of that is Milankovitch Savage will be spending the World Cup with Matic. And Matic only last week said United need, I think it was after the FA Cup, United need to go and sign a few top quality players. Well, you're about to spend a month with one of them, Nemanja Matic, so that could be a real positive for United. Of course, United have got to be in for him in the first place, but I can't understand for the life of me why we wouldn't be in for him, considering we are in crying out for a midfielder, crying out for an attacking midfielder. He's over 6'3", and he's physical. And he picks up a lot of yellow cards. It ticks all the boxes for us as fans, and it also ticks all those physical attributes boxes that Mourinho really likes. So the big thing is, are United in for him? If we're in for him, I think we've got a very good chance of getting him, but I don't see it happening before the World Cup's over. But they won't go that far in the World Cup, I don't think so. Special Agent Matic better do some behind-the-scenes recruitment, says Ryan Lackman. And Mark, what's the news surrounding Alex Sandro, says Mike Thomas. Well, very, very quickly, because you are late. Remember, subscribe to this channel. This is my channel. We're mixing things up now. The United Stand YouTube channel, we're going to be looking at more regular short-form content. And then on my channel, live streams, because it's called Goldbridge Live Stream, where the 8 o'clock show will probably be sitting here now. And we'll have all the interaction that we've always had, but on this channel. So make sure you subscribe and get involved. What's the news, Alexandre? Well, I was told this a couple of weeks ago anyway, and it was sort of verified yesterday that Manchester United Alex Sandro deal could happen very, very soon. It is dependent on Luke Shaw, who looks like he's going to go anyway, but United, Alex Sandro basically could be United's first deal, and it could happen very, very soon. They just need the sort of final word from Luke Shaw that he wants to go, because I don't know whether United want to keep Shaw or not, but what I've sort of been told is that it's on Luke Shaw's shoulders as to whether he wants to go or not, and then he may want to go because of the Mourinho relationship. Which, if you remember, I think there was a bit of a fallout with Luke Shaw and Mourinho around February time, I think, and it came from Luke Shaw's agent or something that he was absolutely appalled by Mourinho's public berating of him, and I think some people in the dressing room weren't very happy about it either. So if Luke Shaw, the Luke Shaw situation is very, very interesting, because a lot of people this time last year, the people who didn't want Luke Shaw at the club said he was injury prone. Well, he stayed fit all season. He's been fit since September, and he's not got injured again. So he's ticked that box. Ashley Young got suspended in January, and Luke Shaw played in January and did well. And I remember saying at the time, what Luke Shaw needs to do is stay fit, first of all, which he did. Get himself on the edge of the first team, which he did. Wait for his opportunity, which he did. Grab the opportunity, which he did. Play a few games in a row and start getting match fitness, which he did. Then Mourinho said that Luke Shaw's one of the best left-backs in the world, and then never picked him again. And then they had that little bit of a fallout again. So I think for Luke Shaw, he spent most of this season as an understudy to Ashley Young, who is going to the World Cup instead of him, who is a 33-year-old right-footed ex-winger. And Luke Shaw needs to look at that probably and go, you know what? In a different team, with a different manager, who gets me and wants to develop me, I could have been going to the World Cup and I could have played 40 games this season. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong that he isn't going to the World Cup, and I'm not saying Mourinho's wrong, because he knows what goes on behind closed doors. But from a Luke Shaw perspective, you can sort of see why he would be saying, I want to move on. And if that is the case, then it is what, that will hasten United's signing of Alex Sandro. He's the perfect fit. Danny Rose, I think, was in the picture, and he has been mentioned for a long time, and he's certainly surplus to requirements at Spurs. But you get Sandro for the same money that Spurs want for Rose, and Sandro is infinitely better than Danny Rose. I don't know how Danny Rose has managed to go to the World Cup, by the way, but that's on another thing. Any news on Martial, says Shaka Phillips? No. I think I don't want to dwell on that too much, but I think it's a very similar situation to the Luke Shaw one, where Martial will look at it and go, in January I was going to the World Cup. In January I was playing very, very well. Alexis Sanchez comes in. I get dropped. Mourinho has a few subliminal goes at me in press conferences, and I'm now in this situation where I'm not a first teamer. I'm 22. People keep telling me, and I can hear that everyone likes me and they think I'm great, but I'm not playing regular football. And again, I've said this before, I do think that I'm going to be gutted when Martial leaves United, if he does, but I feel he has to for himself. I feel Mourinho doesn't like him, so Mourinho should sell him. And he's 22, he needs developing. The same as Rashford, the same as Luke Shaw. These players need development, and they're not going to get it in this team, because Mourinho is very focused on the now and short-termism or whatever, but he has only got a year. And I don't think we'll see much of Gomez or Chong next year. I mean, the reality is there is only one young player of the year this season, and it's Scott McTominay, because we've only really brought in one young player. I think, didn't Gomez play a few minutes, literally a few minutes, in the Oval game in the FA Cup? So we've not brought any youth through, and I don't think we will. I don't think we will next season. And so I think Fosu Mensah is an interesting one when he comes back. His loan at Crystal Palace has been a bit mixed, but he is an interesting one. Pereira's coming back. I'd like to see both of those given an opportunity, and they have been around first teams in the Premier League and La Liga. So hopefully those two will be given shots next season, but I don't really see anybody else coming through. We'll watch Martial tearing it up, says Matteo7. I think it's going to be very interesting. Negativity marks, says Paul Quinn. You don't know what happens behind closed doors. Jose wouldn't leave them out for fun. No, I'm not going to comment that I do know, Paul. And as I say, I don't really want to get dragged into that negativity around United or Mourinho at the moment. The season's done. We can keep looking back or we can look forward. The future's going to take care of itself. Some fans will feel that we've got no chance next season. My expectations are quite low because I think we still don't know our best 11. We don't know what our formation is. We don't know what players are staying. We don't know what players are going. But come that first game in August, I know I'll be feeling very positive. So because I'll be hopeful, and I want that to build over the summer. I want to, I'm wearing my England World Cup top, 1990. So I want to enjoy the World Cup. I want to enjoy the transfers, but I do believe that there will be some sad elements to the transfer window for Manchester United, i.e. players that are going to leave. But we just have to deal. I mean, as I said, Van Gaal sold Van Persie, and I wasn't Van Gaal out when he did that. I was 6 months later when we'd watched turgid football for 6 months before I really sort of made my mind up that he needed to go. So, of course, Mourinho can survive selling Martial with me. He can survive selling Shaw. He can survive selling Pogba. I don't agree with that. I don't think United are all about that, but he must be given the opportunity, and if it is a mistake, then we can all digest that when the mistake's proven, but there must be an opportunity. Hi guys, I'm Serbian. I know that Savage said for a Serbian media that Nemanja Matic is his idol, so I think there is a possibility that Savage will play for Manchester United, and that's from Aki. Thanks for that comment, Aki. I think it will come down to whether Manchester United have an appetite to sign Milankovitch Savage around the value that he is there for. So we'll have to wait and see. Depay rumoured to activate buyback clause. Good season, just scored a hat trick. Can't see it myself, says Jay Coultas. Memphis. I've always said about Memphis that I wouldn't bring him back to Manchester United. The French league is. Some people come from the French league and do really well, but it is a pub league. I've always called it a pub league. It's just not great quality. And also, I don't think Memphis handled the pressure well the first time. And he was, let's not forget, what's the difference between the French league and the Dutch league? I mean, it'd be a great debate if I could be bothered to do it, but some people will say the French league's better than the Dutch league. Some people will say the other way around, but it's close. Well, Memphis tore the Dutch league apart. Absolutely single-handedly won PSV the title and tore it apart. He's not doing that in France. He's been very good in France, but he's not doing that level. I just think Memphis coming back to Manchester United would be a mistake because I think he'd sink under the pressure again. It was bad enough pressure that he couldn't cope with the first time. Imagine what he'd be like the second time. Like, is he going to flop again? The pressure on him would be very, very high. Zach says it's his 15th birthday today. Happy birthday to Zach. And do you remember when Stan Collymore played for Forest? Said Red Devil Weekly. Yes, I do. And I remember when Stan Collymore was on the United stand as well. Harry Kane believes England can win the FA Cup, says Gary Wells. Well, they've got no chance of winning the FA Cup. The World Cup, look, I've never known a World Cup with such low expectations around England. We're always going to win it with the British press. We're always going to win it. But this year, I think there's a lot of realism around it that we're not going to win it. And we won't win it. But you know what? We might have one of our best years in years because the expectations are low. And international football is not anywhere near the quality of the Premier League or La Liga or anything like that. It just isn't, and it never has been. International football, you lump together for a few weeks, good players, but you don't have that rhythm that you do in club football. I think Lingard, Rashford at international football are good players, and they could be helpful. Abin Hernandez wants some help with his GCSEs, and Harry Kane's captain, of course. Yes. Hutchison Gaming's come here from recommended. Welcome, pal. Remember to subscribe to this channel, just subscribe. It isn't the United Stand. This is the Mark Goldbridge live stream channel. And as I said, there's a little bit of a trial really that we're going to try out because I like the live streams, but on the United Stand channel it can go a bit long and it can go a little bit off-piste when we're trying to, be professional. Whereas what we're looking at is some more short-form content on the United Stand and longer live stream and interactions on this live stream channel. So make sure you've subscribed to it because the 8 o'clock shows are going to be on here for the short-term future. We will never win a Champions League again, says Abhishek. And News on James Rodriguez. A lot of people subscribing, which is great. Thanks for that. And get your notifications on, of course. We've got nearly 2,000 people watching, which is great that people have moved over. Fantastic. What happened to the United stand, says Pawan? Nothing. It's still there. There was a video at 7 o'clock. Just we're looking at doing short form content on there. Because effectively, I can tell you now, the click the bell, says Mini Diver. We do transfer daily at 7 a.m. on the United stand, and we do 8 o'clock live stream. But then there's always something else we want to do. But the 8 o'clock, it's just like it's very difficult to get all the shows you want to do on there. And we've got some really good ideas that are short content that we want to put on there that will get time to breathe now, because we can just come on here and stay live streaming for longer. Who do you think will win the Champions League, says Reese 123. It has to be Real Madrid. It has to be Real Madrid. I'm doing the watch along for that on Matt's Football. So if people want to laugh, or if you're watching it as a United fan and you're nervous, join me for the watch along on Matt's Football. We can all watch it together and hope that Real Madrid absolutely batter it, because it's going to be very, very, very hard to watch if Liverpool win. In fact, I'll probably turn it off. But Josh James thinks Fosu Mensah will be amazing. I think it's interesting about Fosu Mensah, because I think there are some people that feel that he's had a bad season and he won't be very good. But I think mission accomplished with Fosu Mensah, because he has had a season whereby he's been training with the first team, he's been playing first team football, and he'll have learnt a lot more than he would have done staying at Manchester United. I'd like him to have played more games, but I think he can come back and be assessed by Mourinho, and Mourinho can make his mind up. And I'd like to see him getting some game time next week. That's a positive. Next season, that's a positive. Pereira worries me a little bit. That I think he might be moved on, but I would love him to be given a chance. He's such a cultured player, great off both feet, good passing range. I think he's a really good player. My only thing, and I said it back in August with Pereira, is I wish he'd gone on loan to Bournemouth. I think under Eddie Howe in the Premier League, at a club like that, understanding education in the Premier League, because it is more physical than the Liga, it would have been great for Pereira. Going back to Spain again, I think, what do you learn? And he got more time at Granada. So that was my only concern about Pereira, that maybe a Premier League loan would have been good for him. But apparently Mourinho didn't want him to go anyway. So maybe, I certainly think he got more game time than he would have done here, because I think he maybe would have been the McTominay player. So, but I do want Pereira and Fosu Mensah to be given a chance. I think Jose's trying to make the squad deeper and trying to make better competition in the squad for first team football. We certainly need to do that. We certainly do. That's from Paul Quinn. And I think Jose's trying to... Yeah, we've read that. Sorry, it wasn't from Paul Quinn. It was from somebody else. United should have gone... I mean, Pat's right there. He says the United stand... that's another thing as well. What we want to do on the United Stand YouTube channel is have more smaller videos focusing on certain topics, rather than, like we'll do on the 8 o'clock show, talk about everything. We want to do sort of 5-10 minute videos, maybe doing 3 or 4 a day, which are just very focused on a certain story, like Talisca tonight, or maybe Sandro, and you just do it very to the point like that. Whereas on the live stream, on this channel, we can spend a lot more time doing what we've always done, which is interacting and going through quite a lot of comments. No. Serious note, says Jay, would you re-sign Johnny Evans? 3 million bargain, great on the ball, good in the air, and is a leader, something United have lacked. Would be a good partner to Bay, in my opinion, better than Rojo or Jones. No, I wouldn't. I don't think Johnny Evans is better than Chris Smalling. I don't think he's better than Phil Jones. I don't think he's better than Lindelof. I don't think he's better than Bay. I just don't think he's that good, Johnny Evans, really, in comparison to what we've got. I mean, I'm concerned. I've said it this morning on Transfer Daily on the United Stand, that I'm concerned about Alderweireld, because he's not played much football in the last couple of months. Couple of years, played 30 games last year, 16 this year, been a bit injury prone, so I'm a little bit worried about that. But on another note, he is a top class centre back. Umtiti, again, if we could get him, top class centre back. Varane, never going to happen, but top class centre back. I've got no problem with Manchester United signing a centre back, but they've got to be top class, and Johnny Evans wouldn't be that. Michael Keane wouldn't be that. It's why I didn't want Michael Keane last summer when we were linked to him. I think if we're going to sign a centre-back, it needs to be a top-class centre-back. Dylan Farrell says, do you think that signing Talisca as a centre attacking midfielder would bring that energy in behind Lukaku? Talisca for Fellaini is a good deal. It is, because he's better in the air than Fellaini. He's definitely quicker. He's got much more creativity. He's better on the ball. He's got a great shot on him. He's just better in every way than Fellaini. He's more attacking as well. Obviously, we've used Fellaini as a defensive midfielder at times, which has always baffled me. So hopefully Fellaini will go. We can forget all the begging from Mourinho publicly, because none of us liked that. But if Fellaini goes, I'll tap him on the back, because it's his decision to go. Mourinho wanted him to stay. And if Fellaini goes and we get Talisca, in my mind, that's far closer to a United player than Fellaini ever was, because he's quick, he's skillful, he's got a passing range, he can shoot, and he's better in the air than Fellaini. So Talisca as a replacement for Fellaini, I would take. There's still a chance he could go to Liverpool. There's still a chance that Fellaini could stay. But I wouldn't be happy about Talisca if we kept Fellaini. Let me put it that way, because then I'd be thinking, are we actually going to get Savage? Are we going to get Fred? Sajan says, I don't want us to sign Willian and Alderweireld and sell Martial and just keeping our other pensioners like Young, Sanchez, Valencia. We don't want to restart our rebuilding job. Well, if we win the title, it'll be well worth it. If we don't win the title and Mourinho goes in a year, we'll have a very, very old squad to deal with. But, as I said, Kieran McKenna, being the manager, one of the assistant coaches for Jose, being promoted from the youth setup, will always be a positive, because he knows what that youth setup is capable of. He knows what the players are like, and he knows if they're good enough. And that's really going to be a positive for us. And I am trying to turn that positive page now. I know there's a lot of things to be negative about, but Mourinho's not going anywhere. We're going to do big business in this transfer window, and we've got some coaches now that actually are more attacking. So hope, fingers crossed and hope, and let's see what happens. I certainly hope that when the fixtures come out for next season in mid-June, that we do have a tough fixture in the first 3 or 4 games, because I don't want us to just have, Burnley at home, West Ham away, and one of the newly promoted teams at home, so it's 9 points. Mourinho's got 9 points in these first 2 seasons here anyway. I'd like to see us get a test early on to see what we're all about, because we've had that the last 2 years, haven't we? We started well and then it fades away in October. John Sherrell says McKenna's giving him positive vibes, and Joy Deep says that there's going to be approach to Tony Kroos in the coming days. We're going to get those sort of links, of course we will, but I don't see... Well, Tony Kroos is playing a Champions League final in the next few days, so there's not going to be an approach for him at all. Real Madrid won't be speaking to anybody for at least a week because they're on the Champions League. Then he's going to be going to play with Germany. United always get linked with Kroos. I really like Tony Kroos, but I really like Varane, and we get linked to him as well. But I have said this, I think we've got to be realistic, and I would just like to say that deal's never going to happen, and then if it did happen, we'll have a party, because I don't see why Tony Kroos wants to leave Real Madrid for Manchester United. Even if he leaves Real Madrid, why would he want to come to Manchester United? It's like we're nowhere near winning the league or the Champions League at the moment. So if Kroos was going to leave, I'm sure there'd be better teams than us who'd want him, and he'd probably want to go there. But if it happened, great. But I just, it's like Varane. Why would Varane, who's 24, is he, coming into the peak of his powers, 3 Champions League finals in a row, why would he want to come to Manchester United? It doesn't make any sense unless they're money motivated. Just bumped into Luke Shaw at the kebab shop, says Donaldo. That's not very nice. And Jose needs a title to get the love for football, says Jamie Bora. Well, yeah, I think Jose does need to fall back in love with football again, definitely. Please do smash a like on the video. Not asked for that, actually. It's all because it's all a little bit new doing this 8 o'clock show here. But remember, 8 o'clock show will now be on the Goldbridge live stream channel as we mix things up a bit with the United Stand channel. So this is my channel, Goldbridge live streams, but we're going to do live streams on here. And I think hopefully you've already seen there's a big difference, because yes, we'll talk about all the news, but I really want to be much more interactive and led by you lot as well. So that's the idea with the 8 o'clock show being moved over to here. and then short form content being very specific on topics on the United Stand over the summer. So make sure you've subscribed to this channel, because if you love the United Stand, then you're going to love this. Not going to be much different, but the 8 o'clock show will be on here from now on. So make sure you've clicked that subscribe and you've got your notifications on, because it's 8 o'clock on here from now on. And also, I must just say as well, I'm moving on to Patreon now. So the Patreon page is our members club. Make sure that $2 a month it costs. Quiz night tonight, Q&A nights, lots of things planned on there as well. So if you are a fan of the United Stand and our content, get involved with the Patreon page. It's our little members club. And also, I must just say this as well. I mean, one of the things that sort of rings in my mind is that we might not always be on YouTube. We are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, and we've got the Patreon page. So the United Stand's not always going to be about YouTube. I must just say that. So don't ever think that, you know, the United Stand's just YouTube. We're a lot of things, and we're the members club on Patreon. So if you can always find us in different places. I'll see you on Patreon in a moment, and make sure you subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching. Link in the video description for Patreon. Bottom right hand corner to subscribe here and get your notifications on. I'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks for watching.